Hi everyone, welcome back again to another monthly webinar from my series. I really missed you all. It's been like a hectic time moving from the land down under to the Middle East. So it took me like 4 months just to adapt, and I'm back now to this monthly webinar. Happy to have you all, and I'm really appreciating that you give the time during the weekends to be here. First of all, I want to welcome Paulo Henrique, my friend and colleague. Thank you, Paulo, for being with us today and offering to share your knowledge with the wider community.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, Mohammed, and I really appreciate being here, your invitation, and straight from Brazil, where I'm based now, working during this time. So it's my pleasure to be part of your panel. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you all. Thank you, Paula. Thank you. As you know, like we've done this many times before. Like it's like something like I'm trying to give back to the community. I'm trying to share the knowledge. So we have this technical discussion with multiple industry leaders and experts, and not in a specific technology. So if you recall, we did a couple of sessions about 5G. We talked about data center. We talked about advanced transport and segment routing and cloud and so on. So, and please let me know in the chat or on LinkedIn if you want to listen or to discuss any of the other areas which will come in the next month. So today, as I mentioned, we are talking about beyond 5G and the road to 6G. I believe it's an interesting topic that maybe people will start to realize how important is it maybe within 10 years. So the information that you will hear today, maybe you will see it in 10 years or so. So you will be ahead of the game and be prepared for the new technology. So today, as we mentioned, like the agenda we'll talk a quick intro. We'll start quickly. We need to touch base about where we are in the 5G journey. Then we will talk about the road to 6G. Why? Usually, as I always say, why and the driver is always very important to know, because if you know the driver, you understand where we are heading and why. We will talk about 6G fundamentals, the promise and characteristic of 6G, and for sure we need to tackle some of the challenges. It will not be an easy road or neither it will be a bumpy, hopefully it will not be very bumpy road, but we need to be prepared and understand the challenges and how to accomplish them. Paulo, do you want to comment?
So yes, no. First and foremost, as I said, I'm really happy to be part of this and discussing a topic in which Mohammed, as you know, so I'm always reaching out to Mohammed, and also I'm looking in terms of understanding and learning as well about several technologies that are surrounding us. But at this current moment, I'm doing my PhD on 6G, and I've been back-to-back talking to Mohammed since when he was in Australia, and now with his successful career in Dubai. I'm very happy and excited to discuss a little bit about my research topic and my look with my my supervisor, Professor Ranjit Prasad in Denmark, where I am focused on this PhD, to understand better and get the sense what we can do to improve our society. And as you said in the beginning, Mohammed, to give back to the community, because we are talking about technology, but we are talking about also about serving humanity in a better way. Applying technologies.
Exactly, and this is one of the key area we'll touch base on it. Like actually, we are working in technology mainly to serve humanity, and we need to keep this in mind. So let me do a quick introduction about Paulo Sergei Henrique. Paulo is actually, as I mentioned, like have more than 20 years of experience. The thing I like more about Paulo, and that's why we are very close, we have the same background and the same roots. So both of us started in IP and MPLS area. And Paulo, actually, he worked in BT for 11 years. Then he moved to BT UK. After that, he joined Vodafone UK. And currently he did like his postgraduate in Berlin, London University in TV Anywhere, because he did a couple of projects about IPTV rollout in UK. And currently, as he mentioned, he is the head of delivery and operation for Speedo. And he also, as a student, PhD student and doctorate candidate in the Aarhus University in Denmark under the supervision of Dr. Rajmi Prasad. And I believe like his thesis and the topic of his PhD is really, yeah, just related, just like about what we're going to discuss today is about 6G networks and how to enhance the performance for this technology. Thank you again, Paulo, for being with us today. Let's jump directly to the meat. So where are we in the 5G journey? And I need you to tell us our position from 3 dimensions, from rollout, like, and from technology, and maybe also from academia. Over to you.
So it's very interesting in this moment, the moment that we are living in. So because 5G is being planning to begin its commercial rollout in 2020. And humanity has been hit by this pandemic situation, in which creates a lot of challenges for us. One of those challenges were the release and the roadmap of some release of 5G has been slowed down, has been postponed because the disruption created in the beginning of the pandemic. But more than that, 5G is totally consolidated now. What's being discussed are important aspects, and I will ask you to continue showing, moving a little bit with the part of the slides, which is first and foremost, in terms of rollout, the rollout is still in its beginning. So we have advanced rollout in Europe, but it's not totally consolidating everywhere yet. And we're still seeing the deployment of 5G in several countries. And in the same thing, we are seeing in other regions. For instance, in Asia and also in the whole Americas, North America, South America, and so on. Where I am based now in Brazil, for instance, Brazil just auctioning its RF radio frequency spectrum for 5G, the end of last year. So they are.
Paulo, actually, I was going to tell you like something about from technology perspective. This morning, I was doing my long run, my regular long run. I was running with my colleague, John. And out of nowhere, without telling him that I'm having this session today, he just turned to me and asked me, you know, you work on telecommunication. What all this hype and buzz about 5G? What does really 5G will give me as an individual? He's a civil engineer, so he's not into technology. But I try to simplify to him. I try to explain to him the SBA of 5G. You know, 5G is all about service business architecture. It's not like when we moved from 3G to 4G, it was all about connectivity. It's for 5G, it's more about like service business architecture. I try to explain to him the difference between getting a bigger pipe or a faster download, which is enhanced mobile broadband, and also the additional use cases which he should see in a year or two, like the ultra reliable low latency, and explain to him the vehicle to anything V2X, and how this is require a very reliable network, a very solid network from two aspects, like bandwidth, because you'll have tens and thousands of sensors in the car, and also you need to have like really critical latency. The latency between the car and the network shouldn't exceed 1 millisecond. And actually, he got excited to know that, and he told me, "So when do you think?"
Sorry,
yeah,
I'm back. Really apologize. So you see,
Yes,
we are experiencing issue here in Brazil, so with the Wi-Fi network, and now I moved totally to my 4G.
yes.
Thanks to the 4G. I apologize to everyone.
Yeah,
But in a nutshell, what I want to explain is the rollout has been delayed to complete some key features on 5G, especially the release 17th and the release 18th. What we are seeing here is that even though 5G architecture is totally consolidated, there are some key aspects that still need to be deployed on the future releases, especially the release 18th. So we can see in this design here in the roadmap that the full consolidation in terms of release of 5G will be complete by 2024 when we have the Olympic Games in France. But one of the key challenges nowadays in 5G is to understand better business models for telco. This is one of the key challenges, where the money is. The other aspect is how we can improve private networks and deploy better use cases. One of the use cases being discussed nowadays in 5G in terms of private networks is for industrial deployments.
yeah.
We can see manufacturers, car makers deploying private networks in order to optimize its services and accelerate Industry 4.0. And on the other hand, the telcos is still discussing how they can leverage and gain the return of the investment in this infrastructure, because we cannot forget, especially nowadays in the imminence, we are not sure in terms of war. There was a war in terms of commercial dispute between manufacturers. And this also play a big role in terms of delay, because some players could not be used in certain markets. It's something that we have to discuss deeply and in the future. But I think that's in a nutshell. 5G, it's already here. And now we need to start, and we already did, discussing the release of the next future wireless telecommunications in order to be ready in the next 9 years from now.
Yeah, Paulo, while you've been disconnected, I was telling the guys about like, if we also check from a technology perspective, and I told them about our conversation with my friend today, he was asking about like what he gonna benefit from 5G as an individual. He's not into technology, he's like a normal user. And I explained to him and to the guys here how he can benefit from ultra reliable, low latency application, the service-based architecture of the 5G. I talked to him and to the team about vehicle V2X, and also you just mentioned Industry 4.0. But what else, like if we can talk about like in a minute before moving to 6G, I have 2 points. We have like the RAN slicing, if you want to tell us quickly about it, how you see we can advance in this area. And also we have a question from our friend Ahmed. He's asking, what are the challenges between 5G and the problem it may cause to aviation? So if you can answer these 2 points.
Okay, so yes, in terms of a user perspective, yes, what 5G will enable us. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We lost your video, okay, but we can still hear you.
Yes, I just removed the video because okay, I'm on 4G, but the signal is not too strong here. In terms of user experience, what 5G will provide us is not just the speed, but also new use cases that we can start enjoying ourselves in terms of user experience. I can give you one example. So the deployment of MIMO will allow us, for instance, to use different type of applications that we start beginning seeing it on 4G. 4G was the first technology that used multiple antennas to capture the signal and to improve when the signal is weak. For instance, the issue that I'm facing now here in Brazil, because I lost my Wi-Fi connectivity, so when I move to the 4G, in terms of 5G network, the experience will be much better. You will not have
where you have the deployment of 5G, the issue of the quality experience that I'm facing now. So for instance, I had to remove my video because it was too heavy in order to broadcast my live image together with my audio. This will be optimized. The intelligence of the traffic will be much better. And other use cases that we can see, for instance, are the opportunity to exploit different KPIs for different use cases. One example is private cars, autonomous vehicles. For instance, for autonomous vehicles, we have to have a critical network that never fails, because all the cars are moving to be totally autonomous. How are you going to control that and give power, be sure that you will not crash? For instance, if we slip behind the hills and the vehicle is driving, how the vehicle can understand its position, cannot crash in the other one, can take you from position A to B safely. These are type of technologies that will be increasing every day in our daily life from now on. So we're going to see more and more automation. That's from the point of view for the human-centric experience. Also, if you go to a stage and you want to watch a content live, you're going to see different type of services over the top on the content platforms that will be enable your experience and start bringing you close to the metaverse. And this is something we're gonna also see with more popularity when 6G comes out.
Yeah. So Paulo, quickly, like, do you have any insight about if 5G causing any problem with aviation?
Aviation, yes. There are discussions now, especially in the US, about some frequency being used by 5G that probably could interfere with radar in landing of planes, but it's still being evaluated. So some frequency that was in use and has been released for commercial purpose are on hold in certain countries now, especially in the US, because we need to better assess this. So frequency interference, it's always something that puzzles all of us, and especially when we are discussing about new technologies being deployed. So most likely what it's going to happen in the future to mitigate this type of technology is the advancement of cognitive radio. Cognitive radio, it's different technology. It also is part of it's part of 5G, but it's still in its infancy, in which the radio can shift its tune. If I can give you one example, imagine you are in a radio station, listen to a radio station, and the signal is really bad, but you can change the tune of your dial to another radio station in order to improve your experience. Will be something similar with that. And most likely in the future, that's the way to move forward, is to have intelligent radio that can sense everything in all devices and improve its communication, especially for critical service like aviation or disasters communication and so on.
Great, great. So yeah, let's carry on. I will answer the other question, but I'm just aware of the time. So let's go a bit quickly about 6G, and then I will come back to your question. Don't worry, we will not forget. So when we talk about like the roadmap to 6G, here, like as we mentioned, usually as a human and engineer, like actually part of the big population of the world, we are trying to work and serve, like you always come to my mind like the UN SDG, Sustainable Goals. And these 17 goals, how to make sure minimizing the poverty, educating the people, make the world more green, and all of these good goals. I believe for us as a people working in technology and an engineer, I believe it's one of our main roles is to serve the community and to work toward this SDG. So this will be my first question for you, Paulo. How 6G will actually help in this? and give us some example from your research.
Yes, of course. Thanks for this question, because it's important for all of us to understand that the critical times we are living in our society, in our global community. All of us, we are integrated, we are connected. As human beings, we are totally connected with the nature, the environment, and we have many challenges ahead of us. One of these challenges is, even though we are deploying these amazing technologies and including 4G, 5G, so 0.5% of our population is still not experience the wealth shared by those technologies, because despite 90%, 97% of our planet is covered by cellular networks, more than 4 billion of people today, almost 4 billion of people, 3.6 billion of people do not have access to internet.
Exactly.
So this is really bad, because those are the people who are living in an underprivileged situation, and they do not enjoy the ability, for instance, for example, like us, to be able to work from home or remotely. They are the people on the forefront of all situations, especially when we are facing challenging times like this, where we have pandemic situation, we try to protect people. Those people need to be going to work every day. On the other hand, so United Nations has proved that every 1% of mobile broadband, when I see mobile broadband, I'm talking about 3G, 4G, and 5G that enables people to access internet. Every 1% of people you bring in to access this technology, the GDP of the country increased 0.15%, which means that the infrastructure in the society improve itself. We are living in a mobile community, mobile society, and technology has proved to give us benefits, to improve health system, education, and so on. But we need to do more. Yeah. Also, when we talk about to do more, United Nations were all deeply involved in improve the quality of humanity. In order to improve the quality of humanity, they create the sustainable development goals that we cannot be detached from. From now on, every technology, every part of our society, we need to look at it. One of the important part of sustainable development goals is how we address the situation to tackle poverty, to decrease digital divide, to fight climate change. So we have to address those agenda. And based on that, as you can see in this presentation, ITU, which is the International Telecommunication Union that belongs to United Nations, also responsible for standardization, create the Agenda Connected 2030, in which present for all of us, the scientific community, engineers, the concern in the main areas that we need to focus and have in our mind when we are developing technologies. And one of these is how we can create better services, how we can use technology to increase the ability for the youth to have access to better work environment and to have access to work with quality, how we can tackle climate change, how we can provide energy efficiency. Those are the areas. The sustainable development goals are very huge. There are more than 70 core areas that we look end to end in the planet to improve the quality and protect our environment and our planet, from the economy point of view to the ecosystem that we live in. Yeah. So
if I may comment quickly, I remember when I was discussing with you, like seeing this number that 97% of the world population is already covered by cellular network, but even half of this number not able to get connected to the internet, which is now not luxury. This is the way we learn, the way we improve. And I believe like this is because these countries, even like maybe they covered with 2G because they're not able to connect to the internet. Maybe these guys are very poor to get like a package like we usually do here, get a package and get connected to the internet. And this is shows like, as Paolo mentioned, that the digital divide or the difference between the developed countries and underdeveloped countries, and how like actually this make a difference and make this country their life even more challenging, because once you get connected to the internet, you get more benefits. I remember like when I was in Australia and I used to live in Sydney, the state of New South Wales, which Sydney is the capital, they created like a plan to have a giga state. So everywhere in the city, even like rural or regional places, should be covered by 1 gig to the building, because they believe like this equality will give these guys, you know, like when when you prepare like the infrastructure and give them the speed and the right connection, you can find invention or innovation any place in the world. So I believe this is somehow unfair, and that's why the UN with this SDG is trying to give the chance to these places. So this is something I want to mention. I believe like showing how critical the work we are doing as in working in telecommunication.
Exactly. And this is very critical. And when one of the parts on the release of my book, in which I'm co-author with my Professor Ranjit Prasad, Professor Ranjit Prasad also discussed the importance of engineers and researchers, scientists to look into those areas, especially the SDGs. And what we propose in our book is to have a ethical engineering for SDG. When we are planning the roadmap of those new technologies from now on, all of us must be committed to look into those areas. And when we are thinking about technology deployment, not just be thinking of the return of investment itself, which is important, but also put our eyes close to those problems, to those challenges, and how we can solve it.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. My friends, can you please like note your questions or put it on the chat, because we almost like have time. We will allow for 10-15 minutes at the end. So please post your question on the chat, and we will answer all of them once we finish the materials planned for today. Yeah. So if we go to the next slide, talking about like the 6G fundamentals, and if you want to talk about like we can start like with multiple places like terabit and terahertz. And I remember when we also were discussing this point, and when I read it in your book, Paulo, I remember when for 5G, when we're talking about a millimeter wave, and we say when you send traffic over 60 gig or 80 gigs, how really it got affected. And actually the coverage will be very small. And when you're sending over this very high frequencies, usually like the coverage and got really affected by the building, by all the solution in the media. So how we are going actually to reach this terahertz, and how to avoid this challenging and physics and these things?
Thanks. Yes. First, we are seeing here the 6G, as we can say 6G fundamentals. Yeah. Some ideas that have been discussed, and as researchers nowadays we are focused on in order to deploy for 6G. One of them is on 5G, we're gonna see gigahertz, gigabit network, so it's a massive data throughput. But on 6G, we're gonna move beyond, which means that we're gonna deploy terabits per second inside of the network and close to the edge and on the radio spectrum. In order to achieve that, one of the proposals of 6G is to move the 6G spectrum to the terahertz domain. Terahertz domain is close to light domain, which is very interesting. So terahertz frequencies are being used in astronomy, for instance, and also we can see using security to detect different bodies and etc. But the good thing about terahertz networks is that the bandwidth it's wider, so we can transmit many more information than before. And this has been tested many years ago in Japan, so trials have been done and show that it's very feasible. But the challenge that we have when we start moving to the frequency, the radio frequency spectrum closer to the light spectrum, is that the waves are becoming very smaller, and they become the range to transmit is becoming shorter. So this is one of the aspects of the challenges we face. But 6G, even though it's moving to the terahertz domain, it's one network that will be heterogeneous. Heterogeneous in its architecture because not just millimeter wave will be used. We are not totally sure in which part of the network the terahertz will be deployed because there are certain challenges. One of the challenges, what is the impact of terahertz radio frequency in our human body? What are the impacts? So probably, perhaps, we're going to use terahertz communications on the backhaul to link radios or multiple cells. This is one of the parts that we can exploit this. But a part of this, there are other aspects very important that we, when I say we, as a research or as a collective thoughts across the globe, because 6G is not something made by one person, it's a collective work, and then comes the standardization bodies to join together and pull the resource and tell, okay, that's the north, we're gonna move on. But one of the aspects I want to say is that many different type of technologies, radio technologies will be used. One of them, for instance, is optical wireless communications. So we start being done research on that area in order to use non-direct, non-line of sight communications. For instance, you can imagine in the future use light as the bubble in a living room or someone to transmit high-speed data rate. Would be a Wi-Fi, but a more advanced technology than the current Wi-Fi we have nowadays, because we have to understand how to modulate the type of light we want in order to deploy those technologies. On the other part as well, as you can see here in the top right side, intelligent radio. Cognitive radio is something that start being discussed. And for sure, certainly I can tell you, intelligent radio will be used because cognitive radio is the radio that can sense the network, can sense the radio frequency around itself, can sense how many devices and how the KPIs are being changed throughout the time, close to real time, and how they can optimize the traffic. So this is another part, is a core part of use. And we cannot forget, when we talk about wireless communications, we have infrastructure. There is no way we can forget about the infrastructure. We have to invest in fiber. Fiber is something that is still being important, and because that's the pipe, the heart of the network. Radio can do something on the front haul, but in the back haul, we need to continue investing in infrastructure, and the countries will need to invest in infrastructure.
I want to comment on this point, Paolo, because I was also like, there was a question from Collins about like the transport, and I believe currently in 5G itself, not going to 6G, people estimating that, let's say in 1 square kilometer, especially in urban areas, the big cities, like you can imagine, like per kilometer, you have hundreds of thousands of devices connected, or can reach up to millions. And they said maybe for one cell, maybe you need to cater for 400 gigs of traffic. So can you imagine, like that's why you notice that many of the vendors working in this area start doing like 400 gig will not be maybe only in the core, maybe will be very, very close to the edge. So if you are like working, if the access is 400 gig, so consider what will happen in the aggregation and the transport. So all this like speeds will be like actually growing also again exponentially. And another point I want also to touch base on it, Paolo, like they're saying about like that currently most of the communication and radio are terrestrial. and there are talks about like the 6G. Maybe we'll start talking more about LEO, which is low Earth orbit, and VLEO. And so, do you think that this will become reality very soon, like having this LEO from 5,500 kilometers, 5,000, yeah?
Yes, yes, yes. That's a good point. So thanks to bring this. Thanks for bringing this topic, because satellite communications definitely will be part of the 6G roadmap, as it is being part of the 5G roadmap as well. And this is the race that we are seeing now. Elon Musk, Facebook, all those companies now, and many other satellite companies we mentioned here in the book on the 6G, the roadmap to the wireless of future technologies, in which constellation of satellites and in medium and low orbit will be key players to deploy a ubiquitous network, a network that is omnipresent, and we can tackle those issues of digital divide, and especially also not just a digital divide, but to take use cases to rural areas or areas that they don't have a strong infrastructure of network, as we say, fiber optics, to deploy broadband signals with quality. But on top of this, 6G will come in many flavors, like 5G, right? So we have different KPIs for different prices and different use cases. For the generic use cases we have here for humans, for us in the daily life, we're gonna also see much more inclusion of ourselves migrating to the metaverse, what we call the cyber world. But we're going to see later in the next slides, because this will be part of the 6G, which is the holographic communications. I don't know. So the sci-fi people that are very happy to that remember Star Trek, when we see the 3D communications and holographic, this is part of the 6G roadmap. And especially in our university, at Aarhus Universities, there is a professor there, Professor Albena, leading a research in holographic communications. So we require a lot of data throughput, and this is very important aspects of this future network.
True. And I believe AI, machine learning, also is a very important aspect. Can you please mute yourself, my friends? Yeah. So when I see AI and ML, and you know, like we all know, I have a session about AI and ML, and I talk about like the 3 waves and why currently the current wave, the 3rd wave, people believe it's maybe will have a better chance than the previous ones, because it rely on data driven. It wasn't like the previous one, and now we are the age of data. So how we take this data using the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and now, you know, like even deep neural network and these things, when we apply it to the edge, all of these can help like human augmentation. Like I'm a believer that maybe robots will not replace human, but as you mentioned, we'll have like a digital twin, the physical world and the cyber world. You can like do something in the cyber world which can actually augment your, maybe like the way we do processing, like hands and these things. I believe it will be like enhancing the humanity. So if you move to the next slide, as we discussed, and I believe this is a busy one, very nice one, talking about the characteristics of 6G. And also I would start like, as you mentioned, we talk about all of that. So if you can tell us, like, because it would be human-centric, and I agree with you. And I always remember like my friend like from Australia, Dr. David Soldani, always saying like, we are moving from the Internet of Things to the Internet of Intelligence. So how to combine the intelligence of the human with the intelligence of the machine, and to have better life for the human. Also in Japan, they have Society 5.0. I believe many places, they are actually aiming to the same North Star. So please tell us about like taking this human-centric in the middle. What else we can achieve with 6G to achieve this goal?
Yes, there is something very important to say here. Thanks because you brought this topic.
Yes.
One thing is that uh, with 5G, we have the beginning of Internet 5.0,
Yes.
4.0, right? So, but the problem with the industrial revolution 4.0 is that a lot of people will lose their jobs, okay, especially the youth. All type of jobs we had in the past will completely disappear. So there is a dichotomy here. How we bring technology and we do not avoid such a disruption that we create more poverty. So based on that, the Japan Cabinet Office decided to create a new roadmap and think from 10 years ahead from now. Because our population is aging, we need to provide jobs for the youth. We need to guarantee that we use technology to provide us quality of life. Based on that, the Cabinet Office in Japan, which is responsible for science and business, etc., create a new concept designed as a Society 5.0. The first society was back in the day, the prehistoric times when humans were just hunting, gathering. Then we have Society 2.0, agriculture, 3.0, the industrial area, 4.0, the information area when the computers came up, and the next one will be 5.0. Why? What they want to make sure that will be the next technology will be human-centric. But what it means to be human-centric, what it means is we're gonna address SDGs, but also we're gonna create a technology that will make sure that this time, whatever we are thinking of, we are thinking of in terms of human perspective, okay? Improve quality of life, make sure that we're gonna have jobs for the future generations, even though they are new type of jobs, and use artificial intelligence to improve the quality of life of the aging population and of the planet itself, controlling energy, making the technology very affordable. I can give you one example now. 5G is being deployed, but the price of a handset for 5G, it's very expensive. So a big side of the population, till we can have affordable handset for 5G, will be out of this technology, even though we have the signal being deployed. So we have to think ahead of this. So that's why United Nations also confirms Society 5.0, it's one very important feature to overcome Industry 4.0. Okay,
And just to
but
remind you, Paulo, just from the number perspective, I remember like
yes,
PSMA, they released a report like recently, like maybe last year, end of last year, expecting by 2025 we'll have 1.2 billions connected to the 5G. So it will take, I think, because this is one of the reasons, like
exactly.
the end user devices is not, it will take some time to be affordable for many of the population. Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of this, then we have here the characteristics. What would look like 6G in 2030 when we start deploying the first 6G networks? First, the extreme coverage. So as I said, omnipresent network, okay, which you can go anywhere and you can have connectivity. Of course, it will be a heterogeneous network, satellite, optical wireless communications, terahertz communications, and so on. But also we will have extreme capacity, high data rate, which means close to the terabits, from 100 gigabits per second to 1 terabits per second, depends on the use cases and the price you will pay for it and the type of application running behind the scenes. Also, uplink. Why uplink is important? Because Professor Prasad, my supervisor, also was working in the past and currently still working in Connosense. And Connosense is the area of the integration, he thought, with the other professor, in order to consolidate communication, navigation, sense, and services together to give better services. We are moving to the era of the Internet of Things.
Yeah.
We forget IoT. It's not just for industrial anymore, but everything will be connected to the internet. Your phone, your body, nanotechnologies, nanosurgeries. So everything will be connected to a wireless connectivities. So Internet of Beings is we as a human beings will be converging to the cyber world. Our body also will be aligned to this. That's why we have also a new area of knowledge being studied in our university, also created by Professor Prasad, which is knowledge home. It's the integration of the 5 senses that human being has, the sensorial, smelling, hearing, talking, tactile, and so on, to integrate with the wireless communication services with AI plugged behind the scenes in order to predict and prevent, and also to act upon before we even need to switch on the light, on the light.
Exactly. You know, like Paulo, like the term, maybe some of you will be the first time to hear digital twin. So your twin will be your second version in cyber, and even people start imagining like even your thoughts somehow, because it's still electro and some chemical, will be presented. So, and using the AI, you can do some calculation, and as Paulo mentioned, you can predict something like maybe before you get a heart attack, using all these senses and all this AI, maybe you can raise an alarm to the nearest hospital. So this is why we want to say like it will be human-centric. So, and yeah, it's all still dreams, but I believe we are on the right path.
And also one thing that you mentioned before was how are we gonna tackle the situation of big data?
Yeah.
Because imagine all of this connected, those millions of devices connected in the cloud and the network services. We have to consider security. We have to consider ethics as well, because, for instance, in Europe, we have GDPR. In other regions, in Brazil, we have the LGPD. So laws to protect the individuals. How are we going to protect data, and how we can process data at the edge of the radio network and in the core in a synchronized manner? How we can make sure that the KPI for the use cases that will be deployed will be responsible to be sit on top of 6G infrastructure will be achieved. One of the things that are being discussed now is the quantum communications, because classical computing itself, plug-in AI, will be a challenge if it's not faster enough, if we cannot increase the exponential speed of the computing power that we have nowadays. That's why we have a new area of investigation defined as quantum machine learning, for instance. These are parts that are being discussed now, and this is interesting technology that will change our society from now on. Yeah. If you can move to the next slide, I will just share some thoughts, food for thoughts for all of us. Classical computing, it's always increasing. Since the 90s, we have enjoyed, and now with the artificial intelligence, the new ways of processing and understanding, and bring to the computers the idea of having a cognitive intelligence like human beings. It's a technology that is consolidated and never will go backwards. There is no way to fight against this. But we have to provide new solutions. For instance, security. How we can provide a robust security that we do not create a disruption, because all of us, we are living in a mobile society. Physical money does not exist anymore, right? It's ceasing. It's still existing, but it's ceasing. We can buy everything with a mobile handset, right? Even a credit card can be loaded. How we can process the different data in the edge of the network, understand and sensing. In order to do this in a better way, there are a new area of science and technology plugging quantum technologies with machine learning, with AI. With this, we can provide exponential power power beyond the classical computer can give us in order to process faster and in a real time all this type of information, and especially in 10 years from now, where everything will be connected in the network. And this also will enable us to move and merge our world into the cyberspace, the metaverse that we already start hearing now, but will consolidate with 6G. We're gonna be able to have digital twins to operate something, predict models of our body, our heart, our brain, and etc. Improve surgeries. We're gonna see different, a brand new world. Okay, so and if quantum technologies can be deployed and become quantum as a services over the cloud, will be even better. So we're gonna reach the pinnacle of our development in terms of science and technology in the next 10 years. We're gonna unleash a new potential.
Yeah. You know, like Paulo, this slide by itself maybe required another session, and I noticed like we're almost close to the hour. So thank you again. I want also to talk about a lot of things about security on the 6G, AI, and ML, and at the edge. We should talk about the MIC, but maybe we should have, like, if you don't mind, let's have another session to carry on and discuss all this, because we want to remember when we were preparing for this session, we said we'd spend some time talking about the graphene, I think, and also like
exactly graphene as a technology. So we have many topics to discuss. And I really apologize my network. I hope when we have 6G, those kind of issues will cease, and we're gonna have a very robust wireless communication system. But if you want to open for any question here, fine.
Sure.
We have 5 minutes.
Sure. Let me check on the chat. I believe we have initial couple of questions. Let's. One question was about we would love to explore the possibility for private 5G dedicated on-prem and hybrid networks, especially for SME and MSMEs. Just a real quickly, like I'm working on this thing by myself, and I see like there's a potential providing private 5G. You know, like this is something like can help the CSP in the ROI, because they are investing this huge billions of dollars to build this 5G network, so they can start selling instead of B2C, business to consumer, they can sell B2B. So they can build private 5G slice for a government, for a factory, for a agriculture company, and for whatever. And even like when we talk about like private 5G, you have like ranges. You can have a fully dedicated private 5G, including your spectrum, or you can even just take like a virtual private 5G on top of an existing CSP. So this is like what I think about the future of private 5G. Paulo, if you want to add something.
Yes, virtualized networks is part of our daily lives now, and we'll catch up a lot. We're gonna see this type of use cases being deployed, and for new use cases that are going to come up, be built open 5G, but also being prepared for 6G. Private networks will be the key success in terms, especially in terms of return of investment for companies, for telcos, and also for the private sector industries in all vertical industries. Could be cars, or agriculture, or more than that, space travel. Recently, NASA just started building 4G in the moon. On the moon, so to prepare for space travel communications, and 6G will be a crucial part on that as well, working with satellites.
That's great.
Okay.
Second question, not 100% clear for me, so maybe Onarg, I will say the question, but if you can explore more. It's talking about like security risks associated with non-3GPP. Do you mean non-3GPP standard or implementation?
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed, for taking that question. Yeah, I meant the non-3GPP devices, more of the IoT devices. How would we take the extra precaution to ensure the security is up to the mark?
That's a good question. I could not give you any answer now. To be honest, it's a food for thought for all of us. The challenges are great. So there are many areas to explore and to invest in terms of research, Anurag. But what I can tell you in terms of now on 6G, my main topic, I'm just funneling into quantum technologies and quantum machine learning. And I believe quantum communications could be one of things to be used. Let's see if it's feasible. Of course, now it's still very costly. We are in the infancy of quantum computing, quantum technologies. But quantum communications, for instance, in terms of security of the channel and everything, probably could be one of solutions. I'm just exploring here, okay? Don't take my answer as a truth. Okay, as I'm just exploring, I'm sharing my thoughts based on what you have said.
I would add something, Paulo, like also may help, like, even for us, like, like they put some standard. I give an example, like some of the interfaces between the radio and the UE, the user equipment, some of the mandating that this interface should be now for 5G should be encrypted. And even this, we done it ourselves. We're doing some testing, and then because the UE was not supporting this kind of encryption, it was not allowed to enter the LAN. So I believe some of these, like even for if you consider yourself securing yourself as a telco, you can apply some of these standard and interfaces. And for these devices which doesn't comply with the standard, unfortunately, they cannot join your network. So, but maybe in the next session we can explore more and give you more examples.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah. Also, probably with the interworking with the IMS, with the Wi-Fi devices.
Yes.
So maybe we can apply some security at that side, packet gateway and stuff.
Yeah, security is a big thing in 6G, and I believe everybody's about like defense in depth, zero trust, because most probably 6G will be built on top of Kubernetes and containers. So there's a lot of discussion about how to secure Kubernetes, how to secure and even I read a Gartner report like in 2020, they said every company which was working in that year in Kubernetes security, they got acquired, because this was like, everybody was talking about that. So if you was lucky and you have your own company at that year, I think this is something big, because everybody now moving to Kubernetes, even in telco, everything from virtualized to containerized. We need also to take care about security. So this is maybe another aspect that we can explore. Collins, I think we answered your question about the impact.
I just want to ask before we go, if it's possible, Mohammed. I want to invite everyone, if you can share the next slide for the Connosense Symposium in Germany that I'm part of the body. Connosense stand, as I said, we are running the 12th Connosense Symposium in Munich, 27-29 of June. Connosense stands for Communication, Navigation, Sensing, and Services. And also the symposium of this year is aiming to foster the integration and the discussion of 6G roadmap. For those interested, please just visit our web portal, connosense.org, and just look for the Symposium 2022. The call for papers are open. And also there will be a hackathon in there. And the new president of Connosense is Professor Ruth Sophia. She's leading together with Professor Ranji Prasad, the founder of Connosense, this new symposium. And we invited all of you to join and participate. And I hope you, Mohammed, you're going to be part of the event, even though in a hybrid way. Okay,
but I will.
We are looking for physical and virtual meetings, which is very exciting and exciting moments for the scientific community.
True. By the way, I shared the link to the chat. So maybe guys, before you leave, copy it, so it will be easy. Yeah. I will try to share also the presentation on LinkedIn, if you don't mind, Paulo.
Yes, please. You can share the PDF version of it. It will be really good, so the people can access.
So I'm not sure if anybody else has any questions.
Someone asked for the call of paper.
Someone asked for the call of paper.
Yes, I just want to point it out. Yes, the call for papers is in the website of Connosense. You just look at Connosense 2022. You're going to see all the details there. Call for papers and hackathon, how you can participate, and there will be prizes as well in the hackathon.
Yes, we'll do that. So I believe there's no more questions. So again, thank you, Paulo. It was very fruitful, very exciting. Thank you for your book.
I thank you. I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your dedication and for inviting me. I'm very honored to be part of your talks, your monthly webinar. Count on me at any time. And I thank everyone that joined this call, my family here that is here. And also I want to say thanks to a new Brazilian friend. I want to introduce you sometime. It's Paulo Spaca, who is here. He's the president of IoT Brazil. He's listening to us. So next time I'll introduce you to him as well.
The next session, we can. Thank you all. And Paulo Spaca, nice to meet you. You can have like a 3-panelist session, talk about 6G and IoT. And I want to thank you all, each one of you, for making the time during your weekend, taking the time from your families and your other engagements. Really appreciate it. And hopefully it was fruitful and it was informative for you. It was for me. Thank you again, and we'll see you again on the next webinar.